It's fortunate to have a job like this. You know, the Clark Building is historical, right in the middle of the cultural district of downtown Pittsburgh.
So this building was basically the hub of the jewelry industry for Western Pennsylvania. That's changed over the course of 40-some years.
At one point, all 23 floors, or most of the 23 floors, had jewelers in them. You know, and now there's 3.
I worked for another jeweler, and I met my husband in this building.
The other jewelry stores, when you walk in, you see that they're really, really nice, fancy, clean.
You see everyone every day, all the other jewelers, everyone knows your name, you know theirs, and they know about you. And it's everyone is really like one big family. My name is David Joseph Helfer, and I'm a jeweler. I'm a goldsmith, a silversmith, a diamond setter, an appraiser, whatever. Everything you have to do in this business, I gotta do it. I work at the David I. Helfer jewelry store, named after my great-grandfather, who I was also named after.
Okay, my name's Ira Helfer, and I am president of the David I. Helfer Jewelry Company, owner, bench worker, bookkeeper, etc.
And my great-grandfather bought the business in 1936. Several items in this shop that we still use today were purchased in that sale as well.
The family's been in the jewelry business all my life. So as a young man, I would come down and spend time here. So yeah, I've been here a long time.
Which is cool. It's coming up on, in 2016, it'll be 80 years. The whole team is basically broke down to me, my dad, Sarah, Rick, who, he has his own little niche, and it's it. I'll use this order for instance. Guy comes to me, I want a wedding ring with skulls around it. This was the example I was given. So this job goes to the wax carver, who then carves the wax.
It's actually just like making a small sculpture. You have wax and you carve it with files and saws, and I use a lot of really small dental tools. You just take away what you don't want, and it takes a lot of experience though. There's a lot of different techniques.
We'll just use that as an example. In a perfect situation, he likes the wax, all right? Then the wax is taken, given back to the wax carver, who invests it.
First of all, you have a flask that's filled with investment, which had your original wax model in it, and that wax model has been vaporized, which leaves a cavity. This flask is already heated up to 1,050 degrees. And then you melt your metal, the gold or silver, and you pour it into the flask while it has a strong vacuum pressure on it. And that tends to draw the metal, the molten metal, into all the tiny little parts of the cavity that's been left in the investment. It takes the exact shape of the original wax model. You put that in water, and the only thing that's left is the metal.
It's unfinished, it doesn't look nice. So then that piece is taken to a finisher. Now a finisher takes a series of files, sanding discs, and grinding wheels, and emeries and stuff like that to clean up, to sharpen angles, to remove mold lines, make sure it's the right size. And then if stones are needed to be set, the stones are set, and then the ring is polished. And then you take the job once done, you bill it out, you find out where it gotta go, you mail it to someone, this, that, write an appraisal. We probably either make or fix, several hundreds of pieces. That's like a week.
I told you one of the things I like is pleasing customers, keeping customers happy, and when they come in and they're happy, and it makes it all worth the while.
A lot of places, they send it away for 6 weeks and no one's wiser, you know, it's just a job. You know, to us, it's a lifestyle, it's our lives, you know, so.
You know, it's like any business. If you don't get things done, you don't get paid. You don't get paid, you don't have a business.
We're not allowed to rest or pee or anything like that, you know, according to his, you know, it's everything, just keep going, keep going, keep going.
And I don't stop. There's this to be done and that to be done and this to be done. And when people aren't here, you got to do it all yourself, so.
He'll make sure your job's done, it's done well and done quickly and as inexpensively as it can be, but he constantly fusses, you know, about everything, worried when it's going to get done, how's it going to get done, how quickly is it going to get done.
And that's the way it is. I believe in the work ethic. I just don't believe it in waking up. Yeah.
Dave does not have the same work ethic as his father. He doesn't at all. You know, he sometimes doesn't show up to work for, you know, a couple days, this, that, whatever.
I think he just needs to change his lifestyle a little bit. And then it'll be fine. It's the same with my daughter.
Yeah, there's times where I've been like, what are you gonna do, fire me? You know, like, it's nepotism at its finest, you know.
It's really hard to address because he's our son. He keeps getting the benefit of the doubt, so.
It's not easy. It really isn't. I mean, it's been a battle with my children for years. Arguments turn into fights, you know, work stuff turns into personal stuff. It can never just be about work, you know. It got to be turned around to be a personal thing, so.
Dana works at the shop as well. And she is my sister. Next question.
We get treated completely differently, and I'm sure that has to do with he's the man of the family and I'm the girl. Last week we were fighting and I heard him. I was like, oh, there he is. He's calling mom to tell on me. And of course he told her his side of the story, and then I got on the phone and told her my side of the story.
I like working with my sister. I'm not getting into this.
Any family business, you know, there's always that, you know, family thing and work thing, and sometimes they just don't get along, you know.
My husband is the hardest working man you'll ever find. I do mean that literally. But he's a martyr.
He, like, single-handedly, like, brought this business up out of, like, almost like we were dangling on not having a business anymore. And I mean, I really owe everything to him. He's saved my butt a lot. But I guess if I was in his position, I'd do what I had to do too, you know. I would. It's hard running a business.
Ira recently had a heart attack on September 14th. He never had any issues, health issues whatsoever. He hadn't even been to a doctor in 15 years.
One of the things that they were saying was, you need to slow down. He still won't. He just can't control himself. He's just so high strung at work.
It's very scary. It's the thought of losing my dad is, I mean, alone is scary, but he is like, that point was so crazy to me because I had instantly thought to myself, I'm gonna have to run this business. And can I do it? I know they don't feel I can. You know, I haven't shown things that have showed that I can wholeheartedly, you know, and a lot of that came rushing in.
But he was back to work 1 week later, just like when he cut his finger off.
It was a Friday morning. I was polishing a ring. The spindle got caught underneath my wedding ring, twisted my finger off. I went to the hospital. They sewed my finger back on. I got out of the hospital Saturday morning, and Sunday I was back in the shop.
He did come back and he had his hand wrapped with gauze, and he caught his gauze on fire with a torch because he'd insisted on working on jewelry.
My dad's rough and dirty, and so am I. And that's what jewelry making is. A lot of people don't understand that. People think that they're gonna walk in to see jewelry making and we're sitting back there in tuxedos listening to violin music like tink, tink, tink. Oh, sir, excuse me, sir. That's what I think of when I think of a jeweler's coming to, and I walk in covered in tattoos or whatever I am. I mean, I think I judge myself more than anything. And I'd like to think that I didn't put them through a lot, but I did. I'm 35 years old, and for however many minor things, I've been in and out of jail, in and out of rehab. I've just so much that for a kid to put their parents through. For as much as he's yelled at me, and at times because of whatever I've done, he's always been there for me when I needed him. It's hard seeing someone you know and love, taking themselves down a certain path. And a pretty good friend of mine, Jeremy, stepped in front of a train and committed suicide. And at that time, I was using drugs pretty heavily with him at that too. But it took so much. I moved out of Pittsburgh with no job, no nothing. I left my parents, told them they were dead to me from something else. I was bad. It was bad. And I got locked up in Ohio. I woke up 3 days later with the worst hangover ever and realized what had happened.
If you don't love them, then you don't give a shit, And to be honest, there's sometimes with my kids that I wonder about that,
You have to experience low before you can get high. In a sense of recovery or even life. If you don't experience defeat, then you'll never taste triumph.
There's been times where I've just felt like, maybe it's not worth having them around or, whatever, and I don't like to feel that way, but sometimes they just make you feel that way. I don't.
When I was locked up in Ohio and my parents told me, they go, you know what, we're not coming to get you. Help me more than anything, because it made me realize that, I couldn't reach out to mommy and daddy anymore.
If they work really hard, they can have something really, really good, but you got to work for it. You just can't expect it to be handed to you, and you got to work for it.
I had what was called a moment of clarity at that time, and I realized that I'm the only person, the only thing in my life that can do anything about my life. And I realized that it was me. I needed to change, or else I was gonna die, And maybe I wouldn't have died immediately, but I would have been pretty damn lonely, So at that point, I decided I needed to get clean, and that's what I did.
And I've forgiven my kids for things they've done. It's just, if you love somebody, you're going to forgive them, no matter what they did.
I've had my problems. And really, when it all boils down to it, I'm here. And I'm grateful. I really am.